I never fully realized this, but Mario has done a lot for the gaming world. Super Mario 64 in particular showed off what a 3D platformer can really pull off. Pretty basic information, I know, but at the time, this was huge news. Not only does this game offer amazing gameplay, but it also provided Mario with a voice.
Let's go!
But silently waiting in the darkness, there was a certain hedgehog that never spoke in 3D. All that changed in 1998, but over the years, Sonic has had so many voices.
Oh yeah! This is happening! Ah! This guy's tough! Couldn't keep up?
The character is considered relatively popular, so what's the reason he has so many voices all the time? I went on an adventure to find all my answers, and wow, there's a lot to unpack here. So I'm gonna take you all on the journey that I went on to answer one simple question. Why does Sonic the Hedgehog have so many voices? Oh yeah, before we get started, shout out to Piggy Poo Pro, Blake W, Minus Girlfriend, and Moon. Thank you all for your support. I do random shoutouts from my subscribers now, so if you want to be mentioned in my next video, subscribe now. Our story begins in good old 1991. You might be wondering, well Kingly, I know the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, and Sonic does not talk. And to that, I would agree with you. However, we're talking about something a little bit different. In December of 1991, children would line up for this arcade ride known as Waku Waku Sonic Patrol Car. In the game, Sonic was voiced by Takeshi Kuzaro, who is also best known for his role as Trunks from the Japanese version of Dragon Ball Z.
Sonic! Yosh!
Kuzaro would continue to play Sonic up until 1993, with games such as Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighter and the infamous Sega Sonic the Hedgehog arcade game, which, as you may have known, introduces Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. 1993 also saw the release of Sonic CD. Sega had planned to release the Sega CD add-on onto the Genesis, and they wanted a Sonic game to show off its phenomenal cosmic power! Landscape designer Masato Nishimura had enough time out of his busy day to actually voice Sonic himself.
I'm out of here!
And apparently he's actually saying, "I'm outer here." Sonic's popularity continued to grow and grow. There were even cartoons starring the titular character. All the cartoons featured the voice of Steve Urkel himself, Jaleel White.
30 seconds is my limit.
And yes, while Sonic even had a voice in the OVA, we'll keep things mostly focused on the gaming side.
So now we can get down to the real fight. The last Sonic standing will be the winner.
Interesting enough, in 1996, Sonic started an educational PC game, Sonic Schoolhouse. Sonic will teach you anything from math to spelling. And in the game, Sonic was voiced by Meg Inglema. This is the only time Sonic has ever been voiced by a female.
I'm Sonic. Click on me for help.
And I'm sure she's a nice lady and all, but I just kinda wish they gave her a better voice direction. It's a game for learning, so I'm not gonna give it too much slack. However, in 1998, all this was about to change. Sonic was taking a giant leap into the 3D world, and much like his rival Mario, Sega went searching far and wide to see who could be their new Sonic the Hedgehog.
Are you Sonic? That's okay, take your time.
Wait, what's going on? Whoa, whoa!
In Japan, a Sega official went on his quest to find a new Sonic. As fate would have it, he stumbled his way into a building. This building was where the Japanese dub of the American show Growing Pains was made. The Sega official noticed a man named Junichi Kanemaru, who was just chilling in the waiting room performing his lines. Mr. Official loved his energy so much, he was hired as the new voice of the Japanese Sonic. To everyone's surprise, Kanemaru was actually an English teacher as well. So this allowed Sonic to speak in both languages.
Great! Uh-oh. Okay, Knuckles. Annie!
However, in America, we would be singing a different song and dance.
So long, so long, never so long.
My regards to Broadway. Remember me to Herald Square.
Ryan Drummond has been performing since he was a child. His parents were actually both actors and directors, so he was no stranger to the acting world. He hired an agent back in 1996, and in 1997, his agent asked if he could do any voiceovers in which Ryan had done, but not to a certain extent. There was supposedly a company known as Lightspan Partnership that worked on educational software, and they were looking for someone who can voice a turtle that does math problems.
Excuse me, but I think this situation could benefit from your observation.
Ryan got the job, but this is where it gets a bit chaotic. Rick Bowman ran Lightspan, but also had a studio at his home. He knew a woman named Lani Minella, who is a voice actress, a voice director, and a producer. You might have remembered her as Rouge the Bat or Omochow, or even Lucas.
Banana!
Anyways, she had contact with Keith Palmer, and she managed to convince him to do auditions in San Diego. Ryan returned to the Lightspan booth, and there was a team from Sega waiting for him. When he walked in, he was greeted by an image of Sonic with some lines they wanted him to say. They had asked him, what would the voice of that hedgehog sound like if you heard him talk? Go! And with little time, he improvised his first lines.
Pick up all the gold rings and get a free life.
The next day, he got a call back. And the rest is history. Ryan and Kanemaru voiced Sonic for various commercials and video games. Heck, they both voiced one of Sonic's rivals, Metal Sonic, in a game called Sonic Heroes.
All lifeform data successfully copied.
All lifeform data successfully copied.
Well, everything's looking good so far. What could possibly go wrong? Sega sought to expand Sonic to a wider audience. One of their plans included a Sonic anime. The Japanese cast stayed attached to the project, but when the anime was to be localized in America, 4Kids took it upon themselves to dub the anime. However, when 4Kids asked Sega if they can use their current voice actors, Sega told them that they weren't interested in doing that. 4Kids then offered to pay them even more money and use their own actors, to which Sega agreed. In New York, Jason Griffith had just auditioned to dub the anime Shaman King. Unfortunately for him, he didn't get the role. However, Norman J. Grossfeld informed him about Sonic X. Originally, Griffith had auditioned for Chris Thorndike, but soon after, the studio wanted the voice he was doing, but for Sonic. They played a few clips of Ryan Drummond's Sonic and told Jason not to copy it, but don't change it to the point he sounded like a different character. The poor guy thought the audition went awful, but to his surprise, they told him about a week later that he got the job as Sonic the Hedgehog. The anime adapted the adventure game storyline in its second season. So when it came to Shadow the Hedgehog, 4Kids was looking for someone who can voice him as well. And wouldn't you know it, Jason Griffith was also chosen to play as Shadow, in which he enjoyed since he didn't have to scream as much. And now for the bad news. You see, the anime was actually a big hit outside of Japanese territory. So much so that Season 3 never aired on Japanese television. And over here in the US, Sega was interested in keeping the voices consistent in all media, which would include the video games. Understandably, this left Ryan Drummond upset and confused. They essentially didn't even tell him he was fired, and never gave him the chance to re-audition. Ryan was even willing to move from California to New York for the job, but it was too late.
Started doing it, the cartoon became very popular, and so then Sega was like, oh, we want them now. So they fired all of us, and they took the Sonic X cast.
Oh.
What a baby.
The years followed. Jason Griffith was now the main Sonic, starting from the game Shadow the Hedgehog and ending in Sonic and the Black Knight. He was even invited to record his own lines for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and did some voiceovers for commercials until 4Kids eventually came to an end. Although his take on the character was mixed with the fans, over time, some has considered him to be one of the best voices of Sonic out there. In 2010, Sega partnered with Alton Towers, which is an amusement park in England, by the way. This would result in a Sonic-themed room and a Sonic-themed roller coaster. When people walked in the room, they were greeted by a voice from Sonic. However, this wasn't a voice like anyone else has ever heard.
Hey there, and welcome to Sonic Spinball. I hope you're all ready for some high-speed fun.
It was much different from Jason Griffith's Sonic, and it definitely couldn't have been Ryan Drummond. But after the audio got leaked on the internet, rumors went wild on whether or not the 4Kids cast have been replaced. Now, Roger has been voice acting for games and television for a while now. You might have recognized his voice in Regular Show, or even as Batman. Sega had asked him to make Sonic's voice much older, and yeah, the rest is history. Roger was the voice of Sonic for nearly 10 years, making him the longest running Sonic voice actor. Not only did he voice Sonic for the games, but he was given the opportunity to voice Sonic for Disney's Wreck-It Ralph films, a Sonic cartoon, and an OKKO Let's Be Heroes crossover. Roger was going strong until he realized something. He was unhappy with how things were going in the video game voice acting industry. And on January 28, 2021, he had announced that his arc with Sonic has come to an end. If you picked up a Sonic game the last decade, then chances are you're listening to Roger Craig Smith's voice.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
But you're probably wondering, whatever happened to the other Sonic voice actors? Well, mainline anyways. Well, for Ryan Drummond, he's doing pretty good focusing on his theater career. It was something he's been working on since he was a child, and doesn't show any sign of slowing down. Jason Griffith, who was Sonic's second mainline actor, doesn't let his replacement get to him. He continued to voice characters and even landed on roles on the live action side, and just recently had his second son. And lastly, although Roger Craig Smith doesn't voice Sonic anymore, he is moving on to a better place in his life. And as for this recording, there is no report on the next mainline Sonic voice actor.
Meow?
But I will never take for granted all the voice actors and what they have brought to this character. I'm happy for all of them, and I wish them the absolute best. Thank you so much for all you have done. You guys truly are the voice of my childhood. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you didn't realize, no, this isn't my huge Sonic Heroes development video. But I wanted to work on something a little bit different since I've been working non-stop and making sure I don't leave anything out for the game. I hope you all enjoyed the video nonetheless, and please consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Or don't, it's really up to you. And I'll see you all next time.